Hey Patreon, it's me. So this week I posted on Patreon, what questions do you guys have for me? A Q&A, an old style Q&A video. This is what we're doing. And literally I'm just gonna read off the questions that you guys posted. And I'm gonna answer them. So, okay, off the top, we got Simon. Says, what were your biggest surprises when you moved here? Either things about the UK or things you took for granted. Don't have to be huge. For example, I was really surprised by the small number of crisp flavors in other countries. What were your biggest surprises? I think one of the things that I took for granted in North America is how big our homes are. I know that sounds really silly, but so when I went away to college, I lived in a townhouse, well actually it was a semi-detached. I lived in a semi-detached that was specifically student housing. So even though I rented a room, it was only for students. And that gross little student house is bigger than my first house here in England as an adult. So you just kind of take for granted just how big Canada is and how big our homes tend to be on average. So when you come to, this little beautiful island, you take for granted that you don't have that space like you used to. I was very surprised at how small the homes are. Of course, I'm in Kent, so it's very specific to Kent, although I think you guys might have smaller homes on the whole across the UK, but definitely in Kent, and I was so shocked at the house prices for these tiny, like 2-bedroom homes with no basement. You got 1 bathroom, you have no laundry room, you have no driveway. Like, those are some of the things that are, I don't want to say basic necessities, but they are sort of like a standard of living that we have in Canada, and I think the US as well. Most homes have driveways, you got a front garden, you got a back garden, you got a laundry room, you got a basement. Like, it's just all this extra stuff. I mean, it's not necessary to live, but I was really surprised that people live without that stuff. Does that make me sound really whiny? Anywho, that's my thoughts. Okay, one more thing, Simon. What was your biggest surprises when I moved here? Not right away, but I was really surprised that I could ever feel at home in a foreign country. So, on top of all the weird stuff, the weird junk food that you guys have, the tiny homes, the dark winters, I was so surprised that I could feel at home in this foreign country. And I absolutely do feel at home here, and it breaks my heart to think that as it stands right now, I am not guaranteed to stay here. People say, oh, good luck on getting your citizenship and things. And honestly, citizenship is about 4 years away from me at the very least. And, who knows what could happen by then. So yeah, it breaks my heart, but also it feels really surprising to feel at home in a foreign country. Thank you. Thomas says, anything you especially miss about Canada? Anything you'd miss about the UK if you left? Oh, tons. Tons, Thomas, tons. Anything I miss about Canada? Family. You have to say family, otherwise they get upset. Friends. Definitely miss the friends. I miss A&W. A&W is a Canadian fast food joint. I'm pretty sure they're Canadian. And I would always get the bacon cheeseburger. Now in Canada, when you say bacon, you automatically mean streaky bacon. That is our baseline bacon. I know there's Canadian bacon, which is pretty gross and not a lot of people like it, but when you say bacon in Canada, you mean streaky bacon. So at A&W, I would get the bacon cheeseburger. I'd get their fries, which were lovely, and I'd get an A&W root beer. Yes. There's something so special about Canadian fast food I just can't describe to you guys. Same with Tim Hortons. I miss Timmy's. I didn't even get it that much when I was living in Canada because I was trying to save money. But I miss the bagels, I miss the ice caps, I miss the Timbits. I miss Timmy's. I miss A&W. My hometown has this pizzeria that's like a family run. They just had 2 shops. They just opened a new one. I miss their pizza a lot. So there are a lot of small things, primarily food related, that I was surprised that I miss. But I also think it's like once you can't have it is when you want it the most. Now I could really go for A&W. Anything you'd miss about the UK if you left? Tons. I just came from the pub, and that's probably one of the things that comes to mind that I would miss a lot is this pub culture. I love going to an old pub. I love trying new pubs. I love cider is my drink of choice. So whenever I go, I try to see, do they have a cider that I've never tried? And if so, I try it. We don't really have that in Canada as much. We do have British pubs, and they are marketed as British pubs, but they don't really feel that genuine because they're just kind of, it's like a knockoff version, I guess. But I love a pub. I love a pub garden, and I love sitting in a pub garden in the sun with a pint of cider and just let me be for a couple hours. I would really miss that. Okay, Sarah. Sarah has a wonderfully long question. Here we go, Sarah. You're very vocal about missing the sun and your friends and family. Must be missed terribly. But are there stupid little things that you still miss that's only available in Canada? Again, the food, the sun, like he said, my family, my friends. I miss the space. I miss the space a lot. Just having all this open space. We have a lot of waterfalls, which you might not know, especially in Ontario. We have a lot of waterfalls just hanging out. You can just see them. You just walk to them. And I love Canadians. If you ever have a chance to be friends with a Canadian, I am a little bit biased, but I think you should go for it. I think Canadians, on average, are really wonderful people. They're very funny. They're very kind, a little bit sensitive. And I think they just make wonderful friends. And I really do I miss Canadians. There's like this approachability. That's, I don't think, a word. Canadians are very approachable and they're just very friendly. Not that British people aren't, but it's just different with Canadians. So I do miss that. And weirdly, when I go back to visit, so when I'm here in the UK and I'm in Kent, I am the only person I know that sounds like me. I have an American friend who's lived here for 10 years, but she has a different accent and hers is very British influenced because she's been here so long. So even though we come from the same continent, she sounds quite different. So I'm sort of the only voice that sounds like me in my life here in England. And there's something actually quite special about going back to Canada and just being part of the crowd. I feel like I don't stick out. My voice sounds like everybody else's voice. And it's just like this like comforting sort of environment. I'm not sure if that makes sense or if that's the cider talking. Now Sarah continues and says, on a serious note, Brexit seems to have made the racist and anti-immigrant people much more vocal, especially the keyboard warriors. I commented on your immigration quiz review and got a very racist and ignorant response from a fellow Brit. Don't know why they watched your video in the first place. Girl, let me tell you, I know. I honestly couldn't find a response to them. They sickened me. Are you finding that life outside of the internet is being made challenging by these people, or is everyday life okay? Sorry, this is long. I appreciate it, Sarah. Thank you. Now, in the day-to-day life, Brexit does not change my life. I mean, nothing's really happened, as you guys are probably well aware, other than we as taxpayers and as residents have spent a lot of money on this. Nothing has really happened as far as I'm aware. So nothing really changes me specifically just yet. I have had situations where maybe I'm waiting for a bus, back when I was taking the bus, and people would be talking about how foreigners are coming to this country and they're ruining it, they're taking our jobs, we should just get rid of all the foreigners, let's start fresh. And obviously they don't realize that I myself am a foreigner and I'm standing right next to them. I don't know if that's just ignorance because, to be honest, I'm white. I don't know if you notice this. And there is a different feeling towards white immigrants versus non-white immigrants. So there is a privilege that comes with that because I do blend in. So I don't get the full brunt of the racism that Brexit is kind of unearthing, if that makes sense. I have a lot of wonderful English people in my life that I would not change for anything. And they are all very kind and they are all very compassionate, and they want me to be here. And I think hopefully everyone on Patreon also wants me to be here. So it's tricky because it's like all the good people are quite quiet and all the horrible people are quite loud. And we see that just on YouTube as well. If you watch, I did a reading your YouTube comments video a while back, which, heads up, I'm gonna do it again because I got some real gems. But a lot of the comments on that video basically said the same thing. There are so many people who genuinely enjoy my videos, and that makes me feel really great, but they don't always comment. Just like I never really comment on other people's videos. I just watch it and I enjoy it. Whereas some of the more racist or ignorant or just mean people who maybe are very lonely, maybe are very angry, they are the ones that speak quite loudly online, so you tend to hear them the most. But thankfully, I don't experience any of that really awful stuff in real life, because I think most of those people realistically are cowards and they would never say that to your face. But also there is a privilege that me as an immigrant, I kind of blend into the masses, and you really don't know that I'm from Canada until I speak this beautiful accent. Duncan asks, are you moving to a new house in Kent or elsewhere? I'm still gonna be in Kent. Are you still doing an ebook? I am. I've just got a little bit lazy on it. I have a lot of other projects in work that I do separate from Adventures in Naps that I'm trying to generate money with so I can pay those sweet bills. So the ebook has kind of been put on the back burner right now. I haven't felt that creative to be working on it. I'm not sure, but it is gonna happen. It is gonna happen. It's just taking a long time. Nice. Adam says, so we all know that cheese is probably your favorite food. Almost. Does that then mean that pizza is your favorite takeaway order? Also, is there the same sort of takeaway culture in Canada/Ontario as there is in UK/Kent? I love a pizza. My favorite takeout order? You're probably right, is pizza. And let me tell you, Papa John's thin crust, double pepperoni, can I get an amen? There's something so great about Papa John's thin crust. It's just absolutely beautiful. I love a pizza. I also love a Chinese. I love a Thai. I love an Indian. Just, yeah, hook me up. I'm doing this before dinner. It's the end of the day. Everybody's gone. And I am hungry. But now I'm thinking about takeout. I could get takeout on the way home. Where's that? No, I shouldn't do that. Is there the same sort of takeaway ordering culture in Ontario as there is in Kent? I think so. I think although there is way more takeaways, whatever, here in England than there is in Canada. At least that's just how I feel. Like when I was living back home, when I was living by myself, and then when I was also living away at college, I very rarely had takeout. I had pizza every so often, but not like Chinese or Thai or Indian or anything. But I also think that's changed now that you have like Eat This and all those other Deliveroo type things. That this was before that was a thing, way back when. So I definitely got pizza, but not so much as lots of other takeout. But then that might have just been me because I really try to save money and I really try not to get takeout, but now I'm thinking about it and I want it. Adam also says, I guess the big issue of the time you have been living here is the dreaded Brexit. As a Canadian national, does it have any effect on you living here? Like I said, currently it does not. Because I have to have a visa to live and work here anyway, it probably won't change my path to living in England. Whereas, someone from the EU is here without a visa, that's really going to change their life. Whereas I already need a visa, so it's really not, hopefully, going to change too much. The issue that I might see, if they start putting limits on how many visas they give out, if that becomes a thing, then maybe. But at this point, nothing's really happened. So here's to living in fear. Okay, C, is that your real name? I don't know. Since you had a Nine Inch Nails t-shirt a while ago, I would like to know what music you like and what you think of music in the UK compared to Canada. Is it different? I like electronic music. I go to YouTube. Okay, that's a long boy, but I appreciate your question. What was the first bit? I forget. I would like to know what music you like. I will listen to pretty much anything that is not country and that is not like screamy heavy. Nine Inch Nails is probably more of the heavier side, like Queens of the Stone Age. Nine Inch Nails are two of my all-time favorites, but those are probably the heaviest. I like alternative, I like indie, I like classic rock, I like electronic kind of stuff, I like some pop. Like, I'll pretty much listen to anything. I grew up listening to, okay, let's do this real quick. I grew up listening to Queen, The Beatles, Who, The Guess Who, Foreigner, Mike and the Mechanics. Then I started to discover on my own Led Zeppelin, which is one of my favorite bands. Pink Floyd, Jimi Hendrix and the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Then I started going a little farther back when I was about 16. I got into blues, like Muddy Waters and Otis Redding and B.B. King and Albert King. I like I said, Nine Inch Nails, Queens of the Stone Age, Muse, Royal Blood, lots of names that I'm completely forgetting. It's like I've never listened to music. Once you ask me this question, suddenly I can't remember a single band. But I think I'm pretty open with music in that I'll listen to pretty much anything. I really don't like country. And I really don't like screamy heavy stuff. What do you think of music in the UK compared to Canada? I grew up on a lot of British music from my dad. Like I was saying, the Beatles and all that stuff. So that sort of formed my interest in music. And definitely there are some incredible British bands, absolutely. But I think so many people don't realize that Canada has a wicked music scene, but a lot of them don't get the recognition that they deserve, which is so frustrating. But on my Facebook page for Adventures in Naps, I do a Canadian music lesson every Saturday, usually around 8 o'clock. I'll post a new artist and a new song that you can listen to in the hopes that maybe you'll listen to something and be like, oh my God, I really love this. And you can dive into that artist or that band or that group and just, discover a new Canadian musician. That's all. That's all I'm looking for. But there really is some fantastic Canadian artists. Unfortunately, you basically have to go to the US to get recognized. So a lot of people do. I don't like to admit this, but, Justin Bieber, had he stayed in Canada, probably wouldn't have been much of a thing. But because he, got recognized, I think Usher, unfortunately, did all that. Brought him to like Hollywood and LA and all the rest of it, and you get a record label and you get noticed and then you become popular and everybody's like, yay. A lot of Canadian artists don't get that, so they sort of get stuck when they should get recognition and not Justin Bieber. Okay, I think I'm talking too much. We need to hurry on. Edward says, did people find you hilarious when you still lived in Canada, or do you think your sense of humor is more appreciated in England? This sense of humor is Canadian, I'll tell you that much. I know a lot of people say like, oh, you're adapting to English culture because of your sense of humor. That's very English or very British, and that's not true. I've always been like this, and I am Canadian. A lot of people in Canada have this sense of humor. I think a lot of people are very dry and very dark. Very similar to a British sense of humor, because realistically we're siblings, right? You're like the older brother and we're like the young kid brother. You know, we are very similar. We do share a lot of things. So thankfully, I like to think people think I'm funny in both countries, both in England and in Canada, but that might not be true. David says, how has Adventures and Nap's success changed you? Here's the thing, David, I don't think I'm successful. And I probably never will. It's kind of that thing where you think, okay, I'm gonna get my first 100 subscribers, and that's gonna be a really big deal. And it is, you feel that. But then almost immediately you think, 1,000's not that much. 10,000. Now that'll be a lot. And then you get to 10,000, you're like, wow, holy crap, 10,000 people. I don't even know what that looks like. But then right away you think, 10,000's not that much. What about 30,000? And now I'm at 33,000 as of recording this. Fingers crossed it hasn't dropped significantly. But you get to 33,000 and I think it's nothing. It's legitimately nothing. It's not enough. Nothing's ever gonna be enough. I'm never gonna be good enough. I might as well just quit while I'm ahead. That's a bit dramatic, but you know what I mean? So I don't think the success or the perceived success of Adventures in Naps has really done anything to me. If anything, I'm just a little bit more anxious because I want to make a good video and I want to please people because they have invested their time and specifically their money in my brand. And I want to make sure I provide enough for them. And that keeps me up at night. Simon, did you already ask? This is a different Simon. Simon 2.0 says, I see a lot of thank you for your service in the States with regards to the military. Is it the same in Canada? It just doesn't seem like it's a thing here. I guess the British are much less patriotic. I think the Brits and the Canadians are very similar in that aspect. We don't really have a love of our military like the US. The US is very much its own animal. It is wildly patriotic, which I actually kind of like. I don't know, it's something very powerful to be patriotic about your country, and they're very patriotic about their veterans and those serving like active duty in the military. Very, very special bond in that thing. Canadians don't really have that. We also tend to take a much less active military role in certain conflicts. We do obviously appreciate Canadian military, but it's not the same very loud, patriotic, support the troops, thank you for your service kind of stuff. We don't really have that as much in Canada. Very similar, I think, to what the British do as well. Obviously, the Brits care about their military personnel, but you guys aren't like standing on the side of the road like waving flags like thank you for your service. I think that is quite an American thing. Okay, last one before I delete this thread so nobody can add more questions. Paul says, what is your favorite / worst video you have done? That is a great question. I cringe at some of my older videos where a lot of people like the ones where I did in my living room because it's kind of like cozy, comforting. I just sat on the floor and I filmed. But sometimes I watch those and I cringe because the lighting is so bad. It's so bad. The lighting is so bad. So bad. So a lot of those older ones make me cringe. Some of my favorite ones, I thought the pudding tasting video, when I was editing it, I thought it was so funny. And I was laughing to myself. I'm like, oh my God, people are gonna think this is so funny. Some of the jokes I thought were very funny. People did not like that one. People saw it as very, I was attacking British culture through their puddings, and people did not like that one, but I thought it was funny. I think the cooking ones tend to be the funniest and the most fun to watch. But you probably don't realize that in some of them, I actually started crying because I was so frustrated with how bad it was turning out. So now you know. Those ones I suffer for, definitely. The taste testing I suffer for, but not as bad. I just have to eat gross stuff. But the cooking ones, I suffer for an emotional confidence level that I usually end up crying halfway through, and then I have to cut that out because crying's not funny. Anywho, what do I know of the best and the worst? Right now, currently, well, I haven't checked in a while, but typically the 5 things I hate about England tends to be the most watched, which is so annoying because then people watch that one, they get angry, they think I hate England, then they go to my other videos and they leave a nasty comment. And if you watched like 10 of my videos, that I hate England just being one of them, then you'd see like I don't actually hate this country, but a lot of people don't do that. Anywho, I think that is everybody's questions so far. I did this a little bit early, so I am going to delete this thread so nobody else can add questions to it. But if you do have a question, let me know. I am going to do another Q&A maybe in a couple weeks. See if you guys have anything interesting to ask. But I hope that gave you a little bit of insight into the chaos that is Adventures and Naps and my life in general. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much. Honestly, I am blown away by people's support on here. I genuinely appreciate it. And even if you have to end your subscription after a while, financial reasons or boredom, you know, I genuinely appreciate any time you have spent as a Patreon. It's unbelievable. Anyway, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely weekend. I hope you have a lovely Saturday, a lovely weekend, and I hope you have a lovely week coming up. And I'm so hungry, so I'm gonna go home and I think I'm gonna get fish and chips, but not mushy peas because mushy peas are for babies and I have fully functioning teeth. So I'm gonna have garden peas. Anyway, I don't wanna start a war in the comments. So I'm gonna go now. Okay, bye.